And welcome to a bonus episode here with the Lunch Learn with Dr. Barry. On Friday afternoons, I do a live series called the Empower Yourself for Better Health series. Some of you in the Lunch Learn community may already be very familiar with that, but in that, I actually go live on my Facebook page and discuss topics that usually fit here on the Lunch Learn community, but sometimes I like to get a live interaction in regards to the topic. That being said, I've had a lot of requests to take the audio from those live shows and bring you guys to here in the listening community. So what I'm going to do, especially for 2019, is on Saturday afternoons, depending if you're just listening to this at the day of the episode release, we're going to be releasing the audio version of the Empower Yourself for Better Health series. So this week, we are actually talking about 8 tips to have a successful New Year's resolution. Again, we are keeping up with the theme, knowing that it is January. If you're listening to it again when it just drops, it is January, and everyone's pretty gung-ho and they're pretty high on their New Year's resolution. And I want to make sure, we have that same enthusiasm come March, come June, come August. So listen to 8 tips to have a successful New Year's resolution here with Dr. Barry, yours truly, on the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. Thank you. And we are off. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, founder of drbarrypierre.com. Now, it used to be drpierre'sblog.com, but now it's drbarrypierre.com, as well as the host of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, and of course, your host of the Empower Yourself for Better Health series. I'm bringing you episode 61, and as aptly titled, How to Plan for Success for the New Year. And we're going along the theme again. We're still in January. I know this month is almost over, but obviously New Year's resolutions is still at the top of our priority. Usually it doesn't start like dwindling down to like March, April, May, that time frame. So we are talking about New Year's resolutions. I'm going to give you 8 tips on how to have a successful 2019 and make sure that New Year's resolution that you thought about in January is the same New Year's resolution that you're completing by the time December 2019 comes around. So again, 8 tips, Empower Yourself for Better Health series. For those who are listening on the podcast later on today, again, we do this live stream Friday afternoons to really try to bring a video aspect, more graphical aspect, and give you guys a chance to ask some questions, while I'm doing this thing. So first and foremost, I like to start off right in the bat, right? So what's the first step of having successful 2019, right? Especially when we're talking about a New Year's resolution. And really right here, I say start small. I think a lot of times when we begin our goal of having a successful year, right? When we say, I want to change some behavior at the end of the year, a lot of times we have very big goals, right? And it's not bad to have a big goal, but a lot of times that big goal can cause you to be very mindful of it to the point where you don't want to even attack it no more, right? So this is why people tend to fall off by the time March and April comes around, because that big goal comes around and all of a sudden they feel like it's too big or they don't have enough time to do it. So I always stress start small, right? And obviously I'm a physician, right? So I'm big on the health aspect of New Year's resolutions. And, that's whether you want to eat better, that's where you want to lose weight. Some people want to gain weight. Some people want to get stronger. Some people want to exercise more. Some people want to sleep more. Some people want to be on less medications or no medications at all. So whatever that is, right? Really it's good to have a great big goal in mind at the end of the year. But make sure you really start small, right? Because all of these, I like to call them behaviors, right? They didn't start off as one big giant, issue, right? It was a little small things that kind of piled on to make one big thing. And if I can plead to you, right, especially when we're starting out in the beginning, especially in the January, February timeframe, think about what could I do? What are the small things that I could do to attack the big goal, right? So if it's losing weight, right? Like, again, I don't want you to totally cut off all your favorite foods, right? But maybe you cut off your favorite foods on Fridays, right? Maybe you cut off your favorite foods on Mondays, right? Just have some small goal that you can obtain and say, yes, I was able to do that, so you can build upon it. So instead of having one big goal and not having a goal complete until you do everything, have a little small goal that you can say, like, I did that first step, so now I can go to the next one. And we're going to move on to the second point, and this kind of reiterated what I kind of said before, right? Really changing one aspect of what needs to be corrected is going to be extremely important, because again, if losing weight, like again, and I'll put myself for example, right? So my goal this year, 2019, is to lose more than 50 pounds, right? So that's my goal. I want to lose more than 50 pounds. Of course, I can't lose 50 pounds in one swoop, right? I have to do it in small little increments, right? But again, I can't start losing weight until I start doing things to make sure I lose weight, right? Whether that's eating less, whether that's exercising more, which is usually our two biggest things, especially when we talk about weight loss. So I have to say, all right, I need to work on the eating less bad foods, right? And if I can work on eating less bad foods, then the weight will begin to come down. Or I can say, I need to start working out, because maybe in 2018, I wasn't working out at all, right? Maybe instead of saying I'm going to go to the gym 7 times a week, which a lot of people tend to do, especially in the beginning, I'm just going to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I'm just going to go to the gym Mondays and Fridays, right? Just small steps to really get to the big goal. That's really what we need to do moving forward. Our third one, talk to someone, right? Those who've been following me for as long as you have, know that one of the reasons why I started my affirmation books was I wanted a way to kind of say, hey, I want to do all of these things here, but I didn't know exactly who I needed to tell. So I'm just going to tell everybody, right? I'm just going to put an ebook out and say, hey, this is everything I want to do. Please hold me accountable, right? So start telling someone, you have to be open. Your goals can't be your best kept secret for lots of different reasons. Most importantly, especially if you want to be accountable, because you can be accountable to yourself. But again, if you are already accountable to yourself, you probably wouldn't have to change that bad behavior into a New Year's resolution in the first place. So, but if you include someone, say, hey, I also want to, hey, by the way, I want to lose weight, right? Hey, by the way, I want to work out. Hey, by the way, I want to eat better foods. And now someone knows about it, right? You're much more likely, right, to follow along in that, guys, right? So think about those things where we talk about just talking to someone. Just tell one person. Yeah, you don't have to be like me. Like I put an ebook out so everyone can know what I want to do. But maybe you just want to tell one person, right? Maybe you want to tell 2 people that these are my goals. This is what I want to do. And I need you to kind of hold me a little bit accountable for it, right? So the third one is definitely talk to someone in our pursuit of trying to obtain our New Year's resolution. Number four is a big one, right? Really don't hurt yourself, right? And what I mean by don't hurt yourself, a lot of times, especially if you're you're a type A like myself, right? Where if it's not 100% perfect, right? Sometimes it's very difficult for you to move forward, right? Sometimes it's very difficult for you to, be accountable, right? But if you say, I don't have to be 100% perfect, I can just do what I need to do, and I'll get there. Then that's how the goals arise, right? So again, and perfection paralysis is always a big thing, especially a lot of my colleagues suffer from, especially in the physician world, right? Where like they don't do nothing if it's not 100% perfect, right? I don't want you to be 100% perfect. I just want you to be able to say, I have a goal in mind, and I have some behaviors I need to change. And I know that I'm not going to be perfect in changing those behaviors, but I know the direction I want to go to, right? So again, so don't beat yourself up when you can't do it correctly, right? Or don't beat yourself up, right, when you have those what we like to call relapses, right? Where again, you're losing weight, but then you have that, bad food, that quote unquote bad food, right? That food that you probably shouldn't eat that day, but you ate it because you just had to have it, right? And then what tends to happen, unfortunately, for a lot of people, they're doing great on their diet. And I hate to say diet, right? They're doing great on their meal transformations, and then they have that one bad meal, and then they just say, you know what? I knew it. I couldn't do it. And then they just go back to the old behavior, right? We do not want you going back to the old behavior. So understand that you don't have to be perfect on your goal to complete your New Year's resolutions, right? You're going to have some missteps, and we're going to talk about that later on as far as the missteps is concerned. So that was number 4. Number 5, right? Number 5 tip is ask, right? And what does that mean? Like a lot of times we will go with these goals, right? We have these lofty goals in mind and stuff that we want to do. And then we run into a bump in the road. And once we run into that bump in the road, because we can't answer the question, right? Because we don't know specifically how do I respond to this bump in the road. We kind of like shell away and forget it, right? Like, and this is why a lot of people tend not to tell people what their New Year's resolution is, because when they hit that bump in the road, and if they don't know how to solve that problem, they just say, you know what, I'm not going to do anything for it. But remember, especially if you listen to that first couple of steps, right? You've already told someone like, hey, hold me accountable. This is what I want to do this year. So if they hold you accountable, then you can also say, hey, like I'm having some trouble losing some weight. I'm having some trouble, gaining muscle. I'm having some trouble getting to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week, right? I'm having trouble, giving up the sweets, right? Can you help me, right? So don't feel bad for having to ask for support. Because again, if this task was something that you could easily do, you would have already done it last year. It wouldn't be a New Year's resolution because you would have already did it. So remember to ask for support at all times, because that's really the level of importance that's needed. Next step, and this is number 6, right? And number 6, you would think would be self-explanatory, but unfortunately, it's not. Number 6 is planning ahead. Like, please, when you go and say, I want to do this, I want to lose 50 pounds, right? I want to work out 3 times a week. I want to eat no sweets, right? I want to drink nothing but water, right? When you have these lofty goals, which again, I want you to have, remember that planning still needs to come, right? You can't just wake up on December 31st and say, hey, you know what? Starting January 1st, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, because it doesn't work like that. So you have to put just as much effort in your goals of trying to obtain them, whatever that is, as you did rating that bad behavior, right? We put a lot of work in creating bad behaviors, but for some reason we don't put a lot of work in making sure those bad behaviors aren't bad behaviors anymore, right? So plan ahead, sit down, kind of plot out. I tell my patients, plot out for the rest of the year. Like say, hey, and from January to March, this is my goal. This is how I want to do it. From April to June, from July to September, from November. Like again, we want to think about your goal and think about exactly how you plan on obtaining each of those goals. Because I tell people, when people say like, oh, I want to do blank, right? Whatever that blank is, I say, well, can you imagine yourself already succeeding the goal? And if you can't imagine yourself already succeeding, the likelihood that you're going to succeed is very nil, right? It just isn't, right? You have to be able to visually see yourself at the end of the road. So if you don't see yourself at the end of the road, that's where problems are going to arise, right? So again, plan ahead, make sure that, again, we're not saying stay away from big goals. We're just saying you have to put a lot of effort to making sure you succeed, right? Because again, you're going to take work. That's why it's a New Year's resolution, because it's likely going to take a full year to really get to your point. But you don't want December 2019 to be around, right? You don't want December 2019 to be around and you look back. I remember in January I said I wanted to lose 50 pounds. Like, what happened, right? We don't want that. And if I can help it, I'm going to make sure that doesn't occur. This is the big one, right? Number 7. Almost to the last one, right? Number 7, right? Anticipate what could go wrong, right? And this is for my pessimistic people who they probably focus on this portion, right? They focus on number 7, the anticipation of problems, like before they even get to the work. And because they anticipate so much problems, they say, I don't want to do the work. But I don't want you to anticipate. I don't want you to act like there's not a possibility that you're going to run into some missteps. I want you to be able to say, hey, the likelihood that I'm going to run into some missteps is high. And if I do run into some missteps, this is the stuff I want to do, right? If I do run into some missteps, these are the actions I plan to partake after I run into these missteps. So I want you to think about that when you're planning your goal for the new year, right? Like, yes, I'm going to make some mistakes, and that's okay that I'm going to make some mistakes. Yes, I'm going to have some setbacks, And yes, it's okay. I'm going to hit the setbacks, but because I already know, again, because remember, number 6 is plan ahead, right? Because I already know I'm going to have some setbacks, I'm going to plan for those setbacks and be able to kind of move forward, right? So again, plan is extremely important. But most importantly, you're not just planning for the good, right? Like, yes, you can see yourself at the end of the year completing your goal, but you should also be able to see like, oh, hey, in February, this is going to happen. In March, this may happen. And in August is my birthday, and I already know I'm not going to eat well during my birthday, right? Like all these things that could happen, you need to make sure you're planning for, right? So again, always anticipate your problems when moving forward. And last but not least, right, reward yourself, right? Reward. Like you got to have some goal, right? But again, what happens when you hit the goal, right? What happens when you lose 50 pounds, right? What happens when you work out, 3 times a week consistently for 12 months, right? What happens when you stop eating your sweets, right? What happens when you stop having to take all your blood pressure and your diabetes medication because you lost some weight, right? Like something should happen that you should be rewarding yourself for, right? And if for those who listen to podcast episode 93, I talked with Dr. Bowley, who talked about how she doesn't like the quote unquote cheat days, right? And most people, when they have a cheat day, first of all, cheat days are terrible, right? We kind of talked about that. If you have not had a chance, check out the podcast episode 93. But we talked about how cheat days are bad because it puts people in those really bad habits for a long time. Again, 24 hours of really, really bad habits, and sometimes it's hard to get back on the wagon, right? Because you spent the whole day getting off of it and enjoying it while you're off of it. But again, not to say that you can't have, that piece of pie, at the end of your month, right, or end of your week to indulge yourself, right? Like we want you to have those, but we want you to understand that you're having it because you're obtaining a goal, right? Like you're having that piece of pie because you worked out 5 times last week or this week, right? Like you're having that piece of pie because you just lost 15 pounds, right? Like have some type of tenuous goals concrete goals that you can say, like, once I hit this, I'm going to reward myself with that in that regard, right? So again, reward yourself, extremely important here, especially when we're talking about the New Year's resolutions, and make sure we're planning ahead. So I want to start from the beginnings, just so if you didn't catch it, right? So number one is to start small, right? So number one tip of having a successful 2019 for your New Year's resolution, start small. Number two, focus on one behavior that needs to change and allow yourself to build up to other behaviors, right? So focus on one behavior and allow yourself to build up to other behaviors. Talk to someone, make sure someone can hold you accountable. Let someone know, hey, this is my goal. Again, you don't have to tell the whole world like me, right? But you can tell your close partner, friend, brother, sister, whoever. Tell someone that this is what I want to do. Number 4, don't hurt yourself, right? Again, don't beat yourself up because you're not perfect, because no one's perfect. No one's perfect. And because no one's perfect, you don't have to feel bad because you're not perfect, right? Like, again, if you didn't know that you weren't perfect, Dr. Pierre here is here to tell you that you are not perfect. Number 5, ask. This is, again, remember, when you have a bump in the road and you need someone to lean on, don't just lean on yourself, right? Because you can't just lean on yourself. Because if you could, you'd already succeeded your New Year's resolution, right? It wouldn't even be a New Year's resolution because it'd be something you would have taken care of last year, right? So make sure, don't feel too prideful asking for help. Number 6, planning ahead. Plan for your New Year's resolution. Plan what happens when you succeed. Be able to look at yourself 6 months down the line, a year down the line, and says like, oh, like I was able to do all the stuff I was able to do, right? So make sure we're planning ahead. Number 7, anticipate your problems. Be able to say like, hey, this is something that I need to deal with. And if I'm going to go in this direction, these are some of the hurdles I may run into. And because, these are some of the hurdles I may run into, I'm able to better prepare myself for them, right? So always be able to anticipate your problems. And last but not least, reward yourself, right? Like be able to say, I was able to hit one of my goals, one of my mini goals that's on the path to my bigger goal. And because I was do that, I'm going to reward myself, right? And never feel bad. Never feel bad having to reward yourself, because that you shouldn't, right? You should never feel bad for having to do so in that regards. So again, I am Dr. Barry Pierre. Again, this is episode 61 of the Empower Yourself for Better Health series. Again, we talked about how to plan for successful 2019 and make sure you crush all of your New Year's resolution goals for this year. I'm going to see you guys next week.